Welcome to Toastmaster Time TV, the show that got everybody talking. I'm your host, Adrienne Jefferson Chofor, and we're happy to have you with us. Today's show, like every show, we have prepared speeches and we have an evaluator. And we have no stranger to our show, a true veteran. James Jeffrey will be our evaluator. Welcome back, James. Tell us what we have in store for this show.
Thank you, Adrienne. I'm glad to be here. We've got three wonderful Toastmasters speaking tonight. We have Mathews, who's going to be talking to us about safety and comfort, followed by Rajeev Rana, who's going to be talking about authenticity. And finishing out our show, we'll have a relative newcomer to Toastmasters, Mr. Knox, who's going to be talking about fear and faith. I'm looking forward to three great speeches tonight. Adrienne?
I am too. I'm looking forward to these great speakers, and I'm happy to be able to say that I am the member of the same club as two of them. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, a member of the Oakland Uptown Toastmasters Club, Mathews. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adrienne.
I've been wanting to have some members of this show from Oakland Uptown for some time, so it's good to have you. Now,
it's great to be here.
Oh, good. So tell us, how long have you been a Toastmaster and a member of the Oakland Uptown Club?
Wow, 9 years actually with Oakland Uptown Toastmasters.
Seems like yesterday, right?
Right. Time goes by really quickly, yes.
Is it just a club for you?
No, it's a family. I love Oakland Uptown Toastmasters, yes.
That's great, and it shows, I have to say. Now tell us, how did you get involved with Toastmasters? Why did you become one?
Well, my former supervisor suggested that I find a place to learn leadership skills and speaking skills. And I stumbled across Oakland Uptown Toastmasters, and I've been with them ever since.
That sounds fantastic. It's like you can't get away from family, can you?
Right.
Yes. Well, I'm so happy that you're here with us, like I just said, and also we get to hear your speech. And so I'm going to give you some time to set that up. I think you have some things that you're going to show us. Yes. And in the meantime, I'm going to share with the audience the project that you're working on and a little bit about your speech, the objectives.
Thank you.
Okay? So Andre is going to be working from the Competent Communicator Manual. He's working on Project 7, research your topic. Some of the objectives, he's going to collect information about the topic and share it with us and give us some data about it, but make sure it's informative, and he's going to give some facts and illustrations about that. Looks like Andre is set up, so we're looking forward to hearing him give his speech entitled Safety and Comfort First, Andre Mathews. Safety and Comfort First, Andre Mathews.
I am so excited about snowboarding and skiing, but more specifically, snowboarding. I want to share with you some tips on how to make yourself more comfortable and safe when you're out in the environment. First, let's start off with socks. This is called one of our base layers. Socks are really important. These are snowboard socks. They are kind of expensive, but they come in handy. They protect your feet and your ankles while you're in your snowboard boots. I want to show you another part of my gears, which is my base layer. It's my pants. This is my base layer here. This keeps me warm underneath what I'm going to wear and show you in a moment. Also my long sleeve shirt. This is another base layer as well. Top layer I'm going to share with you right here. My snowboard jacket. Snowboard I love snowboarding so much, I had to buy a real nice jacket. I won't share with you the brand, but there's a lot of brands out there that will help you in your quest to be comfortable and safe. A lot of pockets are essential. This one has a little handkerchief in there for wiping my goggles if they get foggy. Another pocket here, man, in the sleeve. It holds lip balm, which is for keeping my lips moist when I'm on the slopes. I want to also suggest that when you look for a jacket that's comfortable, you get one that can remove sleeves. The jacket comes off like this, really easy, and it will provide you with that extra ventilation that you can use when you're on the slopes. You think I'm stuck with this like this? No. I have a back pocket here in the back of the jacket. You can stick that in here and keep on rolling. The jacket is really essential when you're on the slopes. It can tuck in and not get wet, so it's water repellent. Water repellent is really essential. You don't want to go out and have a wet jacket or wet clothing. Snowboard pants, very important. There are vents on the side of these pants because it can get hot on the slopes, okay? You want to make sure you can have let that heat out because it can get very hot on the slopes. These pants are very heavy. They're water repellent again. They have an inner layer that you can tug on, and it can keep the heat in and also keep the snow out. Okay? A lot of pockets here. Love pockets. Look for pockets when you buy your snowboard pants. More gear for your gloves are very essential. Man, gloves are the protective of your hands. You can wear these gloves here. So if I want to touch my cell phone while I'm on the slopes, I can just take a glove off and still have it handy, put it back on. Gloves, another piece of great equipment. Safety, your helmet. This piece of equipment will save your life. I want everyone to remember safety first. Always wear a helmet. You don't know who is going to run into you or who may run into you. I've had a friend who was just snowboarding on the slopes and someone mowed him down. And he had a gash on his helmet afterwards. I was so happy that he was wearing a helmet that he came home safely. Goggles, again, these are very essential because they help you to see when it's really coming down as far as snowing. And these are for when it's really light, when it's really bright out. These snow goggles can help you in that area. Another safety item, wrist guards. This is a really essential tool right here. When you happen to fall, like we all do, this will protect your hands. This is the first thing that you reach out, these will protect your hands. Another tip I want to share with you real quick. I did mention balm earlier for your lips. You want a pH balm because the snow, it does have a reflective nature and it will reflect the sun. You need sunscreen. Yes, black folks do get sunburn, okay? So we do need some sunscreen, all right? After that, I want to share with you my snowboard. My snowboard is an essential tool. This is one of the Cadillacs of snowboards, actually. It has a tool here that allows it to turn the first binding here. And when you're on the lift line or you're on the lift, this will kick your leg straight up instead of being at a curved stance. So that is really essential. So that's what I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening to my talk, and I hope you take these tips and use them in your comfort and your safety.
Wow, I did not realize that snowboarding required so much gear. I just feel like we're living in the 18th century and poor women wearing corsets. Can you imagine if you have an emergency? All that gear. What a speech. Please tell us, James, what did you think about Andre's speech?
Well, Adrian, I thought it was a wonderful speech. His project was about doing research, and I think the best research comes from experience. Because he has lived this, he could tell us all the ins and outs, the gear that you need for comfort, the gear that you need for safety, and all of the various pockets and gadgets and things to hold things or to allow for extra ventilation, the Cadillac of snowboards with the binding that can twist. He clearly knows his stuff, and he shared a lot of great information. He almost made me want to go snowboarding, but I'm not a fan of the cold. But maybe I'll change my mind after that speech. Adrian?
I came from the cold, and I live in California for a reason, so I hear you, James. But thank you both for the speech and the evaluation. Now I would like to introduce our second guest, also a member of the Oakland Uptown Club. My club, how can I get that wrong? Oakland Uptown Club. I'm so pleased to have Rajeev Rana here with us. Rajeev, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adrian.
You are such an amazing speaker, so I'm so happy that you're here with us. And I would love for you to tell our audience how long you've been a Toastmaster and what made you want to become one.
Well, this iteration has been about a year with Oakland Uptown.
Really?
So besides that, I was a member for another year at a previous club about 10 years ago. Okay. And I just wanted to experiment with different topics that I feel passionate about and just how it would feel talking to others about it.
All right, and what are you going to share with us today?
It's all about authenticity today. Another one of those topics that really is a fringe topic. Not many people want to talk about it. So I thought, okay, why not push the envelope and give it a shot?
I love it because it's so relevant. Well, I'm going to give you some time to set up and get ready to give your speech, and I'm going to share with our audience the objective that you're working on and the pathway that you're working on. You're working from pathways.
That's right.
You liking that so far?
It's interesting.
I love it. Okay, great. Let me share with them a little bit about what you're working on.
Thanks, Adrian.
Sure. So Raj is working from the persuasive influence pathway, and he's working on the first project, understanding your leadership style. All of us have a leadership style, so he's going to discuss with us how our leadership styles impacts others. Raj's speech is an exploration of authenticity. Rajeev Rana, an exploration of authenticity.
So recently, I found myself really watching The Sopranos. It's one of those TV series that I've watched about 5 years ago, came back to and see it in a completely different light. And the main thing about The Sopranos that really strikes me is how the individuals involved are really so wrapped up in creating a persona that they have to maintain at all costs. And if their personal life actually gets revealed, it's big trouble. And so that's an illustration to me of what actually goes on in the world today, at various levels, of course. But control, the big thing in The Sopranos, control, in their case, via violence. Control takes on different forms in the world today. And I wanted to talk about that in this talk and the time I have. So the Lord Buddha, 2,700 years ago, really formed the opinion and gave the dissertation that most pain comes from two different things, attachment and aversion. Both of them, to me, are actually two sides of the same coin. And that coin, again, is control. And control, again, being the central theme that really is prevalent in the world today. So when I look at my own life, I really come across the control being extremely prevalent. Am I unique in the world? No. But basically, that control is an element of really being able to manipulate the environment around me, as well as the people around me, and most importantly, myself. And that's where trouble actually resides, because once I try and control my own experience, I start to bring in judgment, and that's where I begin to really start getting into self-punishment. And again, this may sound familiar, but it is actually the case in a large amount of the population out there. And society really lends itself to being a controlling person. So where does vulnerability come into this? Where does authenticity really come into this? It's a rare item to really have a moment with a person where they're being authentic, where they're being themselves, where they're expressing not only their innermost feelings, but also their needs, their wants, their desires in a way that's really true for them. And this becomes key in any relationship. It doesn't matter if it's an intimate relationship or it's a relationship of friendship or even a work relationship. We have so many guards and veils up in front of us that try and block out the truth. Any traumas that we've had in the past, we've created counter strategies to be able to push them away, push away the traumas, maintain a steady persona, aka Tony Soprano. So for me, I watched this take place in my life, and it was one day when I actually watched a presentation from a professor at a Utah university, and what he drew was a line of emotion. On the left-hand side, he had put down the negative emotions, which were things like anger, frustration, guilt, shame. And on the other side, he put other items, the positive emotions, love, happiness, joy, bliss. So what he was saying is, per his investigation and the work he had done, he saw that if you tried to limit your exposure to the negative emotions, you also impacted your ability to experience the positive emotions. And I really sat with that, and I thought, wow, that doesn't really make sense. But as I started to experience with my life and really start to experiment with this and being able to experience some of those emotions that otherwise I would have pushed aside, it really became evident to me that, wow, there is truth in what he's saying. So this became one of my central tenets of my experience. So I'm experimenting with authenticity in my life. You know, one of my favorite movies is Forrest Gump. And the reason I like Forrest Gump is because this guy just lives life. Something comes along into his environment, he's off doing it. There's no real thinking involved, no strategy. He just goes and does it. I'm not advocating that everybody become a Forrest Gump, but I am advocating a level of truth coming into a person's life. This was really made really apparent to me in a conversation I had. It was a healing retreat that I was at on the East Coast, and I was with a friend, and we were treated really well by the waitress who was looking after us. And so later on in the afternoon, I basically came to her with some chocolates and I gave them to her. And much to my surprise, she actually started to cry, not the reaction I was expecting at all. So basically, what I did there was started to ask her what was causing the crying. And all of a sudden, she was able to feel this, you could feel this tangible release from her. She started to recount a story where, as a child, she had been given chocolates by a gentleman when she was starving. And then she went on to the bigger story of, there are various people in my family who are suffering from cancer, and I am holding this burden, this guilt, and I don't know what to do about it. But even as she talked about it, she was able to release some of that heaviness. So, end of the day, what's my message of this particular talk? Really just bringing authenticity into life, just trying, experimenting, and see what your experience is.
That was such a powerful message that Raj shared. I was just so touched by that. James, what did you think about that?
One of the things I really appreciated about Rajeev's speech is that he was modeling what he was speaking about. He was demonstrating pure authenticity. There are some speakers who, when they give a speech, you can tell they're giving a speech now. But he just stood here in his own natural way, his natural voice, his natural body language, and he talked to us about his experience with authenticity, from using the metaphor of the Sopranos TV show to the Forrest Gump movie to a personal experience with a waitress in a restaurant. He had great tone, great pace, vocal variety. He was truly authentic in his delivery and his message. And he delivered a powerful message. Let's all practice with authenticity and bring a little bit of that into our lives. I really enjoyed the speech.
I really enjoyed your evaluation, James. I thought it was spot on, and thank you. I look forward to speaking with you later. At this time, we would like to introduce our third speaker. I want to say last, but definitely not least. It's Lewis Knox. Lewis is from the Lakeview Toastmasters Club. Lewis, welcome to the show. We're
Thank
so
you.
happy to have
I'm
you
very
here
happy
with
to
us.
be here with you as well.
I have to ask you, how long have you been a Toastmaster?
So this is my second time at Toastmasters. I was with Toastmaster in 2009 for about a year.
Okay.
Then life came in and I got busy raising a kid and all the things that happen in life.
Right.
I came back last December, so I've really been in Toastmasters for about 6 months.
6 months. Now, it seems like you've been a little busy. I believe you have participated in one of our recent international speech contests. Is that right?
That is true. I was very fortunate to write a speech in my club that went on to win at both the area and division level. And so I had a great time participating in those contests and then just recently in the district contests.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Well, you're a dynamic speaker, and I'm looking forward to hearing your speech. Matter of fact, it's a speech that you gave at the contest.
Yes, it is.
And tell us a little about it.
So the speech is entitled Turning Fear into Faith. I'm writing a book about my experience in life and travels, and I've learned through my own life that sometimes we have to dig really deep when we're confronted with things that we are out of our control, and to turn that fear that we all have, it's universal, into faith. I hope it will inspire other people.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Let me give you some time to set up. Are you ready to give your speech?
I am.
We're looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you some time to set up, and I'm going to share with the audience the objective that Lewis is going to be working on. So although it's an international speech, he's going to be working from the Competent Communicator Manual, Speech 10, Inspire Your Audience, which I'm sure he's not going to have any problem doing. And as Lewis had mentioned, his talk is Turning Fear into Faith. Lewis Knox. Lewis Knox, Turning Fear into Faith.
Have you ever been afraid? I don't mean have some trepidation. I mean really be afraid. Well, my earliest memory in life was one of great fear. See, at 3 years old, I found myself in our kitchen, completely surrounded by fire on all sides, and I was afraid. I was afraid until a fireman pulled me through an open window to safety. I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm grateful to be with you today. For the next few minutes, I want to talk about a topic which I think can be transformative to all of us. That topic is turning fear into faith. Turning fear into faith. From that day of that fire, almost everything I do starts with fear. Now, of course, fear is universal. Fear of darkness, fear of death, fear of stepping out of our comfort zones. Fear. So what is fear? You know, Webster's dictionary tells us that fear is the alarm and agitation that's caused by the expectation of danger. Wow, it's pretty daunting. So for me, the first step in turning fear into faith is to adopt a new definition of fear. I've adopted the commonly used acronym, false evidence appearing real. Now, faith, unlike fear, is not so universal. Some of us have it some of the time, usually when we're in trouble. The challenge is, how do we step into faith when we're confronted by fear? So what is faith? I'm a church boy, and as such, my favorite definition of faith is a biblical one. Hebrews 11:1 says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. For today's purposes, that means that if I can conceive it, and if I will believe it, the universe, God, my higher power, will help me to achieve it. I'd like to share with you two stories from my own life where I had to turn fear into faith. The first is my foster home experience, and the second is my fraternity experience in college. That fire that I referenced earlier came as a result of negligence on the part of my birth mother. See, my birth mother was a heroin addict, and as a result, not too good at the finer points of parenting. The fire and her continued drug use resulted in me being made ward of the court and placed in a series of foster homes. That was my second foster home that was the most debilitating. There I had a foster mother who was manipulative and physically and emotionally abusive. She often said to me, "You came from nothing and you will always be nothing." Of course, I wanted to leave, but I was so afraid. In fact, every time I said I wanted to leave, she would present to me a parade of horribles of all the things that would happen to me if I ever left that home. And so I stayed there for 7 long years. In the 8th year, I decided to find faith. I decided to believe that God could find a home for me that would be nurturing. And I demanded a change. I demanded to leave. You know, sometimes the pull of the future can be more powerful than the fear of the path. So I left that home and I stayed in a 3rd home until I graduated from high school. After graduating from high school, I was fortunate enough to get an academic scholarship to UCLA. And there I joined a fraternity. Once there, once again, I was in fear. You see, I had a secret. The secret is that I'm gay. And I didn't want anyone to find out or I would be outed. I lived in constant fear. I hid behind stories of non-existent girlfriends, and I even went on dates with women. Whew, talk about fear. As the night would get longer and longer, the fear would go up and up, always choking me, because I would think, what if at the end of the night, she wanted to get lucky? You know, that's fear. Unfortunately, my greatest fear was realized. And in my 3rd year, my roommate outed me. And everyone knew that I was gay. I was afraid. My response was to swallow a handful of pills and hope not to wake up. Now, fortunately for me, the pills just made me sick. And I woke up the next day confronted by a new reality. There, I had to find faith. I had to find the faith in God that I knew from a little kid. I had to believe, and I do believe, that God could do anything but fail. And so I wasn't a failure. I wasn't a failure. I was perfectly imperfect. And I believed that God would keep me and sustain me for the rest of my life. So I decided to come out as a gay man. See, Martin Luther King said that whenever a man or woman straightens their back up, they're going places, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. And so I straightened up my back and I stepped out as a gay man. And my new slogan is, hey, I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm not going anywhere. The situation at the foster home, my coming out in the fraternity, were examples of where I had to turn fear into faith. And now I have some questions for you that I'd like you to consider. Where is fear in your life? Where does faith come in to help you deal with that fear? What are you afraid of? Here's what I know. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same space at the same time. It's a choice, and courage is the bridge that will take you from fear into faith. It is my hope that as you deal with the trials and tribulations of your life, you will always deep down find the courage to turn fear into faith. Thank you.
Whew. That was so intense. We went from exploring authenticity to finding faith, removing the fear and replacing it with faith. James, do tell me, welcome to the desk.
Thank you, Adrian.
What did you think of that talk?
I have 3 words: fabulous.
Okay.
His project was about
Inspiration.
inspiration.
Yes.
And, you know, just as just as Andre spoke about his personal experience
Right.
with snowboarding, and Rajeev talked about his personal experience with authenticity, Louis spoke about his personal experience from the fire when he was little to the foster home to being outed and transforming from fear into faith. And this is what it means when we say Toastmasters is where leaders are made.
That's right.
And leader isn't always a world leader, someone who's making changes at a global level. It's a person stepping out, making a change in their own life. And what is more inspirational than that?
I agree. That's Toastmasters, where leaders are made, James. Well, that's going to be it for our show today. If you'd like to learn more about Toastmasters, please go to our website, Toastmasters, www.toastmasters.org. But before doing that, to learn more about this television show where we tape in Palo Alto, please visit us at www.toastmastertime.com. Also, if you'd like to learn more about the District 57 that sponsors this show, please visit www.d57tm.org. And again, please visit Toastmasters International, www.toastmasters.org, to find a club near you if you're not already a member. I would like to thank the dynamic speakers that we had on the show tonight. We had Andre Mathews, Rajeev, Rana, and Louis Knox. And I'd like to thank James Jeffley for being an evaluator on the show tonight. And that's going to be it for Toastmaster Time TV, the show that got everybody talking. See you next time.